His Royal Highness the Prince Andrew, Duke of York, Earl of Inverness, Baron Killerley, Royal Companion of the Most Noble Order of the Garter, Knight Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order, is now simply to be known by two words: Prince Andrew. But has he really lost his grand titles? Because the situation is a bit more complicated than perhaps you're hearing in the media. I'm Rafe Heydel-Mankoo, Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum and also co-editor of Burke's Peerage, World Orders of Knighthood and Merit, which is the premier guide to honours. And I'm going to explain what's happened to Prince Andrew, why it's happened, the significance of this dramatic step, the first time in a century that a member of the royal family has lost a dukedom, and what lies ahead for the king's brother. So, as you may have heard, following discussions with the king, Prince Andrew released a statement stating that the continuing accusations about me distract from the work of His Majesty and the royal family. And so he has decided, whether he decided himself or whether he was pushed into this position is a question which must be answered. And I think it's quite clear that, knowing how much Prince Andrew adores his titles, adores being a duke, adores being a Knight of the Garter, this is something which is very much put upon him by the king, and we also understand by Prince William, the Prince of Wales. He has decided that he will no longer be known by any of those titles. This, of course, follows on from the fact that several years ago he also lost the title of Royal Highness. He lost all of his royal patronages and his royal military appointments. He was colonel of the Grenadier Guards, for example. So he lost all of those 5 years ago, ceased to be a member of the working royal family, did not have a public role, and was essentially living in retirement at Royal Lodge on the Windsor estate. So why has the king now suddenly decided to go the step further and provide what many would regard as the ultimate humiliation, the ultimate punishment, and strip him of everything else that he's had? Well, of course, this comes on the back of a series of further great embarrassments to the royal family emanating from Prince Andrew's past. We've had evidence that he lied when he about the date upon which he said that he had stopped communicating with Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted paedophile. He, in fact, was found to have continued to have email exchanges with Epstein, suggesting that they would play again in the future soon. That made his position continuing almost untenable. Then, of course, we also had reports that he had met with Chinese spies and indeed had grown very close towards one spy in particular, a chap called Yang, who had developed a great deal of trust in the eyes of Prince Andrew. And indeed, even more damaging perhaps, he had met with the chief spy master of China, the man who is actually at the heart of the scandal engulfing the Labour government at the moment, which is in relation to two British men who were charged with spying for China. That case has collapsed because the government refused to declare China a national security threat. But the secrets that they were divulging ended up on the desk of the great spy master of China, who is the fifth most important person in the country. Now we find out that Prince Andrew also met with him. And also in a few days, we are going to have the publication of the memoirs of Virginia Giuffre, the woman who alleged that she had been abused by Prince Andrew. Claims he vigorously denies still, and it must be said, Prince Andrew has not been found guilty in any court of law, but he did have an out-of-court settlement of many millions of pounds with her. And those memoirs are going to be even more embarrassing for Prince Andrew when they come out in a few days. And the decision was made, given once again the unfortunate spotlight that Prince Andrew is shining on his past and the embarrassment that will bring to the king. It was felt necessary to distance the royal family even further from Prince Andrew, hence this dramatic decision. So he is no longer going to be called Duke of York. his ex-wife Sarah, who had been known as Sarah, Duchess of York, she'll lose her title as well. But will they really lose their titles? Because actually Prince Andrew is not being stripped of any title whatsoever. He still remains a Royal Highness, even though he stopped using that 5 years ago. He still is the Duke of York. It's very difficult to remove a peerage title from somebody. That requires an Act of Parliament. And you really would need to make a very good case that it's worthwhile taking up valuable parliamentary time to pass an Act of Parliament to strip Prince Andrew of his title of Duke. So he still is legally the Duke of York, even though he won't be using it. He's also going to lose his honours as a Knight of the Garter and as a Knight Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order. He still won't be formally stripped of those. He will just simply stop being known with those titles, won't take part in the ceremonies of the order, like the Garter Day ceremony at Windsor Castle. Those gifts of the Garter and the Royal Victorian Order, those are in the personal gift of the sovereign, so he could be stripped of them quite easily should the king choose to do so. Prince Andrew does, he has also lost his Earl of Inverness title, which is the Scottish title he has, and also Baron Killalea, which is a title he holds in Northern Ireland. Those have gone as well. We know the people of York were very upset, many of them, about him continuing to be Duke of York. In fact, York City Council had already removed his honorary freedom of the city of York. What else could he do? What does he have left? Well, he is still a prince, and that is because he is the son of a sovereign. As the Queen Elizabeth II's son, he is automatically a prince. In order to strip him of the title of prince, were that to be decided at a future stage, perhaps, we know that Prince William, when he becomes king, will not be as tolerant of his uncle as King Charles is. He could issue new letters patent to strip Prince Andrew of the title of prince. That's a very rare step. That was last done just after the First World War, when there were some German princes who held British titles, and the King George V decided to streamline who would be a prince to make sure that those Germans weren't actually amongst the list of British princes. But that will be a very dramatic step to take. But that's where we are. The question, of course, is what happens to Prince Andrew now? I mean, it seems quite clearly that he will not be welcome at Sandringham or Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle or Balmoral, even for private family events, which is what, of course, he had been restricted to in the past. And so it seems as if he will now face a future much like that faced by the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. If you'll remember, Edward VIII married the American divorcee Mrs. Simpson and lived a life of exile, having abdicated the throne to his brother King George VI, who was the last person to be Duke of York, and they retired to France, the Duke and Duchess of Windsor, and lived a life there, or quite a vacuous existence of social parties and the like. Prince Andrew doesn't quite have the same money at his disposal, but if he did give up the lease on Royal Lodge, he has a lease there until the 2070s, he would have a chunk of money with which he could perhaps move somewhere like Switzerland, a place very close to Sarah Ferguson's heart, and it would be very easy for them to live there. He also has the right to use a palace in the United Arab Emirates. This was a gift from the royal reigning family there, a palace for him to use whenever he wants to use it. So he's got a choice between the snow-capped mountains of the Alps or the deserts of the Middle East, if he chooses to go to either of those. It is a great fall of grace from somebody who was the sweetheart of the nation in 1982, after his role in the Falklands War. But scandal has been a cloud over Prince Andrew for many years. Of course, he was known as Randy Andy when he was a bachelor, a dashing prince. Prince Charles used to say he was the only member of the royal family with Robert Redford looks, but then became called Air Miles Andy, was seen to be very entitled and arrogant and rather pompous, and was used helicopters, it was alleged, as if they were private taxis. There were questions around his use of his role as a British Trade Commissioner to set up business meetings for friends of his. And of course, then we had the incidents with the Chinese spies and with the source of some of his income, and with, indeed, of course, the Virginia Giuffre and Jeffrey Epstein. I'm sure there'll be more to this story as the months and years go by, but that's where we are currently. But I thought it was important for people to understand exactly what has happened to his titles. So he still retains the titles in law, but he won't be using them publicly. If more scandals emerge in the future, I could very well see a situation where the king, or perhaps in the reign of King William V, would go further in order to remove him completely from the registers of the peerage and of his other honours. Now, some may say it's unfair for him to have been treated in this manner, given, of course, as I said, he has not been found guilty in any court of law. He vigorously denies the accusations made against him. And yes, it's absolutely right. He is innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. But in the court of public opinion, whether you think it's right or wrong, he has been found guilty. And at the end of the day, the monarchy lives or dies by public support. And I think it is quite clear. I've been saying for years, Prince Andrew was somebody who was willing to lay down his life for Queen and country in the Falklands War as a soldier. Now, as a prince, he needs to make a similar sacrifice for king and country, for the interests of the monarchy, and retreat completely to avoid causing the institution any embarrassment. And that's essentially what he said in this statement. He said it's not in the interest of my family or my country for me to retain such a close link. So I think even he has understood what many of us have said, that yes, look, it's true, he's not guilty of anything in the eyes of the law, but at the same time, the more important issue is the survival of the monarchy, and that requires public confidence and indeed public support. That's all from me. I'm Rafe Heydel-Mankoo.